Welcome everyone, and welcome to this webinar looking at the using the animation editor to build automated tours. I'm Martin from support, and I'm joined today by...
Hi there, I'm Karen, and I'm working in the background helping out with your questions and anything else that needs helping out back here. If you have a question, please use the Q&A tab and Q&A screen. Yeah. So
I was trying.
With perfect timing. Perfect. Yeah. If you have a question, please plant it there. That's where we'll see it and we can best respond to it. And also please try to keep your questions on topic, which is, but today is automatic tours with the animation editor, right? Yeah, so
absolutely,
like you just said, and and we'll take it from there. Have a great webinar, and I'll see you later.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, everyone. Right, okay, so today's webinar then, automating tours and using the animation editor. So let's just start off with what do I mean by using sequences. Well, if we have a look at this output, what we've got here is our Leomani example, and I've got a little button here that says walk, well not walk, but basically when you click this, rather than doing the auto rotate that spins around in circles, which people are sort of associate with auto rotation, what we can do is use the animation editor to produce what people see. So we're slowly spinning around, pointing out all the good things, and once we've done with this node, we'll then move on to the next node, and then we'll pan and zoom and see and look at all the highlights of your virtual tour. So that's basically what a sequence will do for you, and the sequence is basically a collection of clips from the individual panoramas. So if we just take a quick look, if I select the animation editor up here, you can see that I can I'm on node 1, so I'm selecting this clip, and we can see that we've got this timeline here, and you can see that rotation we've just seen. So I've produced that, and you can then, as I say, then produce what somebody sees in that in that particular clip. And then the sequence is this thing up here. I'm using the default sequence for this, so it says for node 1 I'm using clip 1, which is what we've just seen. In node 2 we're using this clip, and we've seen this. And so basically the default sequence has all of these clips added together. So when I click that button, which we did earlier on, it's just going to run through all these clips. When it gets to the end of the sequence, it's going to transition to the next clip, and so on. When it gets to the end, it goes to the start again. So that's basically having, an auto tour. So you're just showing the customer exactly what they want to see. And then of course, because it's similar to auto rotation, it can be stopped at any time by clicking into the panorama. Let's just see that in action. So with it running, the customer can then start, when they've got to where they want to be, they can just stop and interact, and it's, it isn't a video, it is an interactive panorama. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be looking at. Now I'm going to use the option 1 key, or which is going to reset all of my panels back to default, he says, which it does. There we go. And what I want to do initially is set Pano 2VR up to make it easier for this task. Now, those that are not familiar with Pano 2VR, all of the Pano 2VR is a big window with a panorama in the middle, and we have panels attached around the outside, and these panels can be docked, undocked, put on different screens, hidden, shown, etc. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I want to be able to see the properties panel here. I want to be able to see the nodes of the tour, so the tour browser, and I also want to see the animation panel. So if I click the animation panel, you'll see its default is side by side, but I'm not seeing enough of the animation timeline. So what I'm going to do is undock this and drag it, he says, to, hang on, I've got there we go, drag it over here, dock that in, so I've now got a panel showing the panoramas and then the timeline, and then I've got my properties. So when I click inside the timeline, I can see the properties of the animation window. All right, so that's basically my layer I'm going to use. You don't have to do that. It's just that when we're performing this particular task, I need to refer to the tour browser, the animation window, the one at the bottom, and then the properties panel at the side. With all those seen, it's easier for me to do this task. Right, okay. What I want to do now is just look at this, as we said, the default sequence. Here it is. And with the default sequence, as I say, we made all the clips. Now, what's important to note with the animation editor is that if I select the retainer's courtyard, so all of these panoramas have a name, and I'm going to be using these names. And again, with this displayed, you'll be able to see if I'm going to go to the gravel drive or the retainer's courtyard. You can see what I'm talking about up here. So if I select the retainer's courtyard, we will see that this particular panorama has two different clips. You'll see it's got clip 2 and clip 4, and they are both used. Basically, why that happens is in clip 2, if I was to scrub that through, it will actually take us into this building here. But in clip 4, it's when we come out of that building and I need to go elsewhere. So if I come out of this building, then I'm going to turn left and go somewhere else. So this particular panorama has two separate clips. Okay, so that's a quick run through on individual clips and then a sequence containing clips. Okay, so what I want to show today is making, auto tours or sequences that will get you from point A to B. So as an example, if you had, say, a kiosk, a university or a hospital, and you had the virtual tour there, it'd be possible to build a virtual tour with a button or with a menu system, and you could say, show me how to get to, point A from point B. When you click the panorama or click the button, the panorama will then take you through that sequence on how to get to your destination. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Right, so with that said, how do we do it? Right, well, I'm going to click the plus button up here, and this is we're gonna start a new sequence. And the new sequence I want to do is take you from the gravel driveway, and we're going to get to the long gallery here. So I'm going to call this sequence, strangely enough, long gallery. All right, so okay, so that's the sequence, and you can see it's empty. I'm going to select the gravel driveway, the panorama. Now what I'm going to do is, I like to just right button click and go to default view just to make sure I'm starting there. And if if I move this, but then click if you see the back button or scrub to the start button, you'll see that it will take you to the default sequence, which is represented by these keyframes. Well, these keyframes are taking the default sequence. However, if you wanted to start with a different view, you could move the panorama and then select this button here, which is toggle keyframes. If I do that now, you'll see that jumps up slightly, which is representing the pan angle. And that is now, if I move that around and go back, that is now my new start, my new default view. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to select the time or the history button, and I'm going to go back and to a time before I made that change. Okay, so we're back then to my default my default view. So this is the view that someone will be seeing, and I need them now to get to the long gallery. So what I need them to do is move around here to the door and go through. Okay, now there's several ways of doing this. What I could do is say, right, I am going to let me think, say over 2 seconds, I want them to move there, click the toggle keyframe button, it creates a keyframe. All right, so if I cursor back or scrub back and press play, you'll see that happens. Okay, so that's what's going to happen there. Now the thing with this is it's the time. I've set 3 seconds or 2 seconds, and basically what's happening here is I'm setting the amount of time it's taken me to rotate to that. So if I was to say, right, I want each clip to be 2 seconds, but I've got one panorama that I only need to turn, say, 20 degrees in, and another panorama I need to turn 180 degrees in, the second panorama will spin round really quickly to get there in 2 seconds. So in this particular one, or in this particular case, what we can do is look at what we call our magic keyframes. Okay, so before I go any further, what I need to do then is let's get back to, so, sorry, I've just gone back too far. So let's just create the sequence. So long gallery, so popping that in. What I need to do, obviously this is the actual clip from our default sequence. So I'm creating a new clip. Here we go. So we're going to call it, it says clip 2. Now, I know that I've got these names now to help me. It's worth, well, I say help me, it's worth thinking about the naming convention. So this is going to be the gravel drive going to the next node, which is going to be the retainer's courtyard. So I'm going to retainers, so that helps me. So if I add that, I've now got this clip here. Now we've already spoke about adding the timeline and timings. But what we've got here is our magic keyframe. Now I did touch on this earlier, but before we do this, what I want to do is look at the magic keyframe settings. When I select this, you'll see that it comes up with the speed. So here we've got it set to 20 degrees per second. Now what this does is it keeps your rotations constant. So because we're looking at degrees per second, if I now use, let's just change this to say 40 degrees, right? If I move that around there and click the magic keyframe, you'll see that it's taking 0.9 of a second to move from that point to that point. So if I just go back and we set this to say 30 seconds and do the same thing, all right, so let's start at the start, move that around. I'm using the grid view here, which you can do by turn that on and off here, but I'm using the grid view to line up on the point hotspot. Click the magic keyframe, and that will now go to, that will say that that's basically 1.2 seconds to do the same thing. So the good thing about this, regardless of how long you're going to spend in a single clip to rotate, the rotational speed will remain constant. So that's where we're going with this. So the speed that you're turning remains constant. So if you don't have to turn too much, obviously the clip will be shorter. If you need to turn longer or turn round further, then the clip will be longer, but then it's a constant speed. So you don't end up with one clip spinning out of control, another clip really slow. So that's quite an important thing to cover there. Right, now this only needs to do this, yeah, to go from that point to that point, and I've got all of this timeline. So in the scrubber at the top, well, I can not scrubber, but the scroller at the top, I can right button click and trim timeline to last keyframe, and there it is. That is that clip done. If I press play, it loops around. That looping, by the way, is if we go here under animation at the top in the menu, you can see I've got loop, and it's set for current clips. So I'm only going to loop the current clip in the sequence. What I'm actually going to do is set this to all clips, and this will become clear why I've done this in a second. Because now what I want to do is get to the retainer's courtyard. All right, I'm now going to add a new clip for this, and we're going to call this retainer's courtyard 2 long gallery. That's why I'm using this naming convention, and I'm adding that to the sequence. Now, interestingly enough, this clip doesn't have to do anything because I've entered from and looking at this view, and I need to go through that door. So I can't use a magic keyframe button because that only works if you've got movement. So what I need to do in this instant is move the scrubber over to say 0.5 of a second, yeah, so half a second, and I'm going to add manually the keyframes, and I'm also now going to trim that timeline. Now you think, well, why am I doing that? But if I start at the top and press play, you'll see that we're moving around, entering, and then what we'll do is move to the third building, or my third location, which is my destination, which is the long gallery. So I'm going to select long gallery. Here we go. I'm going to add a new clip. All right, and this is going to be the long gallery LG, and this is where we're going to end. Oh, so let's put that there. Oh, I'll get that right in a second. Here we go. So LG dash. So this is where I want to end the clip, so or end the sequence rather. So I'm going to type in end there. All right. Okay, and this is where we're going to stop. And again, I don't really want to do anything special here, so I'm just going to scrub that to about 2 seconds and manually add the keyframe. Again, I can't add a magic keyframe because that only works with movement. So again, right button click and trim to last keyframe. So that's that sequence finished. If I start at the top, press play, or just press play anywhere else, what we're going to do is go through that. So we're going now forward and we're in that room. So we start in the driveway, go through the door, through the courtyard, into the building, done. That's that sequence finished. Okay, now it doesn't look particularly grand or great at the moment because obviously when it's actually exported as a as an HTML5 output, we're going to get the transitions in between, which we don't see here. So let's just go to the output. And what I need to do now is open the skin editor. And I want to show you the skin initially to start with what's already there, and then how we're going to add the button to this clip. Now, as you saw when we first, when I first showed you the default sequence where we looked around the whole tour, it had this rectangle as a background. So there it is. I've got a hotspot here that we can move around the nodes manually as and when we want to. There is my walk button here. What that's got is just a simple mouse click show element background, so that's what it does. There's some other actions in there which I'll explain in a second, and then what the background's got is a text box that's got basically a hand cursor selected, and it's just got the action mouse click start animation default sequence. So what I need to do then is add another text box in here to start the sequence long gallery. So I'm just going to add a text box to the skin, going to make it 150 pixels long. We're going to call this long gallery. What else do I want to do with this? I don't want a background. I certainly don't need a border. I want white text to match what's already there. I'm going to call this long gallery. Okay. I'm going to give it the action of mouse click, auto rotate. The type is going to be start animation, and the sequence is going to be the long gallery, the one I've just selected. And now what I need to do is drag that into the background. All right, and now I just need to position it. Well, that's nice and simple. I'm going to set the anchor to left center, and then just set 0, 0, and that should position it just nicely for me. And to finish it off, I'm going to put the hand cursor. So basically what we've done is when this opens up, I'm going to select the long gallery, and we're going to activate that sequence we've just made. So let's just do that. Output the project, open the walk to button, let's call it. And when I click long gallery, it moves, transitions, we're now at the long gallery. All right. Now it's going to loop and transition, but before we go any further, I'm just going to throw it open to Karen and just ask, do we have any questions? And if so, speak now or forever hold your pieces.
Yeah, okay, we have one question. It's a little bit off topic, but I think relevant to the setting up your project. Andre is asking, how many Windows arrangements are you using, and do you have it somewhere in the forum showing like what's the most useful setup for a workflow?
Well, we have a video about window arrangements, and basically if you look at the menu, you'll see, so let's make sure I've got Pano 2VR selected. Look at the menu, we've got window, and you can see arrangements here. The standard one is what I always open with. If you look at any of Karen's videos, she's got a slightly different sequence because that matches Karen's style. My style is I tend to use the default, but will modify as and when I need to, like in this case. Now, it could be that sequence I've got now, or that arrangement I've got now, I could actually save this arrangement, click it, save, and I could save this arrangement as, I don't know, let's just call this animation. All right, click that. Now that I've done that, you'll see if you go to the window arrangements now, you'll see that we've added it. So you may have seen, or you may have heard me say earlier on, I used option 1 option 1 or alt 1 on the PC to get to my standard arrangement, which is showing the keyboard here. This funny symbol for you PC guys is the alt key. But now I've just saved animation, so alt 2. So without any thinking, now I can go alt 2 and get my tour browser in this panel, and it's all set up to exactly do what I wanted to do now. But that's a whole different subject, but we do have a video on it. But the key word there to look for is, if you're on our website, is window arrangements. All right, so I think that covers that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I was talking with Andre in the background there, and I sent him the link, and he knows how to do it. But what he's curious about is, what other people are using for their workflows. And I think whatever you choose is the right way. For me, I like, when I'm working in Pano 2 VR, I like having the most minimalistic view possible, and so I like to have a huge viewer. I like to see my panorama. I want to see it nice and big, and I always have just one of the side panels open, and always the long tour browser or the long animation editor. And so, and sometimes I might remove a panel here or there, but for the most part, I like to open up my Pano 2 VR clean with nothing there, and then add to it. But there's no real right and wrong way, and I think depending on how you like to work and what you want to see on your screen as you work is always good. And I really like how Martin has his arrangement here set up with the tour browser on one panel and the animation properties on the left, because this to me is a very efficient workflow in this case. And that's the other thing, is just trying to figure out efficiency, right? What you can see. But okay, there is another question. So I hope that helps, Andre. I'm sorry we don't have anything specific, but
it's really down to preference, isn't it? It's really what.
Oh yeah, and Luke makes up a good point. It also depends on the size and resolution of your monitor. That is so true. On my laptop, it is really minimal. So my small screen. Yeah.
Shan't go into what it looks like on my little Microsoft Surface Go then.
Yeah.
Which is tiny, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things I appreciate. Also, if you have a small screen, one way to kind of help minimize the space is you can even change the toolbar up at the top. You can make those icons smaller or get rid of them completely, just so you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's it for questions. You can move along with our topic.
Right. Okie dokie. Right, okay. So we've built our sequence to the long gallery, so I've now got a button that if somebody wants to know how to get to the long gallery from the driveway, you can click the walk button, click the button, and it physically shows you how to get there. Now, the problem we had, just to recap actually, let's just go back to output. The problem we had with this is when we click the button, two problems really. One, we've transitioned to this, and then what's going to happen is it's going to loop. Now, I don't necessarily want the loop. You might do, I don't know, but you might not. So, that's how do we fix this? If I don't want to loop, I just want someone to get there and stop. When they've stopped there, then they can use, click and then obviously use the panorama to look around that particular location. Okay, so how do we do this? Right, well, what we've got in Pano 2 VR is, if we right button click in these tracks, I can add a track, and I'm going to add a new track, and I'm going to call this track stop. There we go. And I'm going to add a variable name, because this is quite clever. What we're going to do is add a variable track in the animation editor that's going to affect a variable in the skin. Okay, so I'm going to call this Annie stop. All right, so animation stop, and it only needs to be a boolean, so true false, and that's now added. So it's going to start false. And now the important thing is, now I've done this through luck more than judgment, but what I've done several times in the past is I'm in the wrong clip, and I've done this in the wrong clip, and it's like, ugh. So I've had to delete it and then go back. But obviously, if you're going to stop an animation, you want it to be on the very last clip. So there it is. We're on the last clip. Let's just drag that up a bit more so we've got a bit more space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to 0.1 of a second before the end, because these are all points. And there's 1 second, there's a bit more. And then I'm going to double click, set the track to true, and put it there. So basically, as it scrolls through, we're going to get to this point, and we're going to change, you can see it changing here, the data from false to true. Okay, all right, so that's basically what we've done. Timeline starts at false, gets to the end here. When it gets to this bit, turns to true. Okay, so that's what we've done in the sequence, but how do we now control that in the skin? So if I go back to, well, to the output, which I'm already, go to the skin editor. What I'm going to do is I could do one of two things here, actually. I could create a container and just call it, and just give the container a name like, I don't know, let's just do that actually. I like the idea of that. So let's just call this Annie vase. Yep, so Anna vase. So any variables coming from the animation editor, I know I'm going to have here in this container. Now, if I click in the skin editor, you'll see that we've got animation variables, and this little information box popped up. Now, what it's saying is that there is a variable track, or a variable that's being generated in the animation editor. What do I want to do with it? So I'm going to select it and add it to the skin. Boom. And now you see it's now a variable in the skin. Okay. Now that it's a variable in the skin, I can select my container and I can give it an action. I can say, when the variable changes, and the variable I want to change is going to be animation stop, I want auto rotate to stop. Okay, that's the action. So obviously it starts off when the timeline gets to this point of true. That's when the variable changes. When the variable changes, that's going to trigger the action to stop the auto rotate. And what I can do just to tidy this up is actually say variable Annie equals true. So only do this when the variable is changing to true. Okay, so that's what we've added. I'm going to press close, save. Let's create the output and click the button. So long gallery, off we go through the retainer's courtyard into the long gallery and stop. We're not going to go any further. It's now stopped. I'm now free to look around. Now, when we looked at this button, because this is a good time to talk about this now, this walk button, there was 3 more actions in there that I said I would come back to. And this is the reason why when we click this, I want it to go back to the start panorama. And I also don't want the zoom in, zoom out effect. If we look at a hotspot, I've got this zoom in again effect, all right? But when I change back to the start panorama, I just want it to cross dissolve. I don't want all the zoom in effect happening. So that's why there was 3 more actions. So I'm just going to walk you through those 3, all right? So it's fairly simple. What it is, so basically we've got the mouse click, as we said, to show this menu. All right, then the 3 actions after, let's just pull this over so we can clearly see it. So we've got mouse click, change transition to cross dissolve. So basically mouse click, player settings, change the transition, cross dissolve, and I've taken away the effects. So zoom in before and after are now none. Okay, Then the next action was to move, mouse click, open next panorama, the gravel drive, which is the start panorama, which is where everybody's going to start walking from to get to various destinations. All right, so, and I'm using the default view there. And then the last action is on mouse click player settings, change transaction, cross dissolve, and I'm putting back the zoom in before and zoom in after. So this is why when we click the button, it just cross dissolves back to the start button. But once you carry on again, you've got the zoom in before and zoom in after there. So those are those actions and why there's 4 actions in that button. Okay, so that's that. So let's get back to the task in hand, which was, well, to stop the animation, which we've done. Okay, and let's just, again, just for the sake of it, click on the button. You see the menu. The full tour is immense. It takes a long time to go through, as I said, because it's showing you everywhere. This one, point A to point B, done. All right, okay. What are we going to do now? Right, well, what we can do is give more information as we walk through the tour. All right, so we can introduce a text box. So let's just do that. I'm going to go into the skin, going to grab a text box from the tools. There it is. And what I'm going to do is anchor top center. I'm going to set that to 0 so it's in the center of the canvas, skin canvas. And I'm going to make that about 20 pixels from the top. I only need this. Now this is going to display a title. So let's just call this title. All right, for want of a better name. And then what I'm going to do is change the background color to black, give it a little bit of alpha, so 175 is good. Possibly give it, don't want any width, I don't want any border, give it a radius of about 10 so it's nice and curvy, matches the curves on this one to keep it constant. And what I need to do is I need to actually display a variable track that we haven't put in here yet. All right, but there's a reason why I haven't put it in the animation editor, and the reason why I'm doing it this way, because I want to show you something. So in the color, I'm just going to finish this off by using color white. So that's basically my text box set up. Now if I go back to the animation editor, when we right button click in one of the sequences here, you can see that I can add a track, and it was, and I can start it new and we can add it that way. But what it's listing is the variables that are already in the skin. Okay, so if I go into the skin, rather than going through that loop process of adding the variable into the clip and then opening the skin and then selecting it and then adding that variable to the skin, I can just make it directly in the skin. So here I'm going to call this, hang on, let's double click, Annie underscore text, and it's going to be a text variable, and I'm going to give it the name text. All right, so that's I've put that directly in the skin. Save that. All right, so now what should happen is I'm going to select the first sequence, or the first clip of the sequence, and I'm going to right button click, and you could say add track, and we now see text appear. All right, now I've shown you both ways. So we could have added a new clip here and generated it and added it to the skin, but now what we've done is added it to the skin, and then from the skin we can now add it to the sequence or to the clip. So I'm going to click this text, and here we go. This is what it says, and clip, and there it is, and it's blank. This will actually show us what the text is. So I'm going to start off by double clicking, and I'm going to type in here, no, actually, let's do it. So TU turn left, and enter. That should do. When I click that, we've actually got this text now in the timeline. All right, now again, what I'm going to do is I like to tidy this up, so when this comes over, this will be displaying this text or this text will be in the variable, should I say, in the skin. And about here, what I'm going to do is double click and just add a blank, because I want the text to disappear at this point. I don't want it to be displayed all the time. Okay, so if I now go back to the skin, all right, what we can do then is that the title text box, I'm going to get it to display whatever text. So I'm going to use this little button here, insert placeholder, look under variables and look under text. So this is now going to display whatever text is in that variable. All right, so let's just produce the output. You can see there's the text box. When I click along gallery, turn left, and it obviously we need to do a bit more formatting there. So the text box wasn't long enough. So what we're going to do is go back to the text box. And what I'm actually going to do is set auto size, so the text box now will change its width depending on the amount of text. I'm feeling a little bit yeah, let's change that to say 20 pixels. Let's go for it. And what else can we do with this? That's about it, I think. So it's centered, 20 pixels, job done. Right, there is another issue with this that's not an issue, it's just because I haven't done it, but I want to show you what it's happening. And it's there. If you look, because the text box is now at auto size, because there's no text in it, it's like a little dot or a bit of dirt on your screen at the top there. Okay, so if we were now to select long gallery, when the text is there, it's nice and big, and when there's no text available, it's a little dot again. So how do I get rid of that little dot? Well, what we can say is, under the visible logic block, I can turn around and say that if the variable text equals nothing, so there's no text in there, set the visibility to false, so it hides itself. Okay. What I also wanted to do and didn't is add a little bit of padding. I want the padding to be about 10 pixels all around the text to make it a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So let's have a look at this. No little dot there, it's gone, and the text will now only appear when it needs to. All right, so that's really well, it isn't a hard thing to do. It's I won't say it's simple, but it's not a hard thing. Anyway, so what we're going to do is add track again, text to this one. We're going to start it off and say walk forward. Again, I'm just going to, for the last 0.1 of a second, just put a blank one in, because as we write the text to the text box, I want to be able to delete the text as well. All right, so we go to the last sequence, double click, oh no, wrong one, sorry, click add track, text, text any, which is right, double click to get to the edit the variable or the keyframe, sorry, and then what I'm going to type in is here, reached Y-O-U-R destination, and there it is, you have reached your destination. So that's that, and then again I'm going to add another keyframe just by double clicking that will turn it off. So with that all done, what we should have now is, if we now follow the sequence, turn left and enter, walk forward, you have reached your destination. There you go. So that's basically adding some text to this as well, just to give you a visual effect. Now, what I did notice was the walking forward bit, even though we're not doing anything here, it was too quick. The text sort of flashed up and flashed, because this basically, this clip, if we have a look, is only half a second long. So what I could do here, there's various ways of what I can do, but what I want to achieve is make the clip a bit longer. I want to make it 1 second. Now I could just literally type this 1 second and make that 0. All right, so that's now make the clip 1 second long. Done it that way. I can then select all of these, drag it to the end, and drag that to the end. That's one way of doing it. It's now a 1 second long clip. There you go. All right, so that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, so let's just get back to there. Let's make that a little bit shorter, back to half a second. What I could have done is, with selecting inside the timeline, Command A on the Mac, Control A on the PC, which is selecting all of the clips, I can right button click on the last clip and then stretch keyframes and then say, let's make that 200%. So if it's half a second, 200% will take it to a second. And those keyframes have already gone to the end. I don't need to do anything with those, and I can just move the keyframe, the text keyframe to the end. There we go. So now when I publish out, we've got that little bit of extra length and delay on the long gallery. So in the second one, we've got a bit more time. That's better. That makes it look perfect, and I'm happy with that. So that's basically adding a destination. Okay, so that's basically one sequence that we've added. Now, we've really spoke about this and gone through it really slowly, and it's taken a while for us to build it. What I want to do now is add one more location to this, or one more destination. And I'm just going to not blast through it, but go through it in a sensible type of speed so you can see what goes on. But interestingly enough, we will need to add another clip, and then we can duplicate clips as well. So let's just show you how to do that. So I'm going to add another sequence, and we're going to call this East Court. Okay, so I'm going to bring back my tour browser. So the East Court is here. So again, I'm going to start with the gravel driveway, and let's have a look here. Now, East Court, now with this button here, this will list all of the clips associated with the first node. And if I select the gravel driveway to Retainer's Courtyard, all that does is move from there to there, which is fine. That's exactly what I need to do. So all I need to do really is just add that to my sequence. All right, so that clip is now added to the sequence. If I go to the Retainer's Courtyard now, this panorama here, and have a look at the sequences here, then you'll notice that I've got two clips here from my main default, and this clip is going to the long gallery, but that didn't do anything. That just stayed there for a second, and then we went on. So I can't use that, so I'm going to select a new clip, and this is going to be the Retainer's Courtyard going to, so East Court. So you can see why it's important the way that you label these up. So I'm just going to click on that. So this creates a new clip for me, all right, for me to work with, and all this new clip is going to do is go from there to there. And I'm going to click Magic Keyframe, right button click, trim to timeline, done. So if I start there, just have a quick recap, press play, go to that, and move forward. Brilliant. It's doing exactly what I need it to do. So let's now go to the East Court. All right. Now the East Court we've done nothing with, so it's only got the one sequence there. So and it's the wrong one, because the default clip, or the default sequence, the clip they used here, pans all the way around really slow. You can see what it does, and it's, you know, it's far too slow and complex for what I actually want. So I'm going to create a new clip, and this is now going to be the East Court, and I think we used the word end, was it? I could be wrong. So East Court end. Add that as the sequence. There's a new one there. I'm just going to check that I did use that word end. So yeah, long gallery end. So I'm just trying to keep the naming convention. So East Court end as well. And all this needs to do is spin round to the building. So it's about there. So I'm going to click my Magic Keyframe. And because it's the end clip, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit just to tidy that up. There we go. Magic Keyframe. And I can now trim the last trim the timeline to the last keyframe. So again, always worth doing. Just test it. So through the door, turn right, looking at it, turn right again, and we're going to end looking at the tower. Right, okay, so with that said, I'm going to go back to the output, go back to the skin editor, because we need to do what we did before. So that's add another text box. In this case, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste, bring that down, change this to East Court. I could have obviously started a new text box, but it's quicker to do this because this has all the actions in. I just need to change that to East Court, slide that down to the action, and what we should now have is another sequence called East Court. There we go. So that's what that will do, he says. So let's click, let's do the output. So when I use my walk button, didn't change where it should be. So let's have a look at the East Court. What I'm going to do is move the anchoring down and set that to 0. That now is at the bottom. I've already got everything selected. Good. Let's just create the output. And what we should have now is when I select the East Court is move around. So I'm using the same clip. Oh, hang on, I've just touched it with my mouse. So move forward, rotate round. Note the speed, everything should be working or moving at the same sort of pan speeds, nothing faster. This is the art of using this Magic Keyframe when you set the degrees per second. So the only thing we need to do here then is add the titles and the stop. So on the last one, end, all right, I'm going to right button click, add track, stop, okay. So the stop one was going to be 0.1 of a second before the end. Now it's important that you do 0.1 of a second before the end. Let's just change that to true. If you do it at the end, like the end is almost at the start, so it's not going to detect this change. All right, so you need to be a little bit in. So as the timeline comes along, it trips over this, it detects a variable change, and then that triggers the auto rotate to stop. Okay, so that's that one. I'm also going to add another track. This one's going to be the text one. And this is going to be, right now this one's interesting because what I'm going to do is here, so T you turn right, and so this one's turn right, again, bear with me, all right, so that's, all right, again, and then what's going to happen as that turns right, it's going to get about there. So I'm going to about half a second, I'm going to blank that so there's no text showing, and when we get to about there I want to add another text box saying space reached your destination, and that will display until we get to the end here, and I'm going to blank that out. So basically what's going to happen here is I'm going to say turn right, then the text is going to disappear there, you have reached your destination, and then it's going to disappear once we get there. Okay, so that's basically that, but what I need to do is just add a text track here, which is going to be GURN, turn right, hence why in the last node we said turn right again, and then here I'm just going to use another blank keyframe. So with that all done, what we should have is East Court, turn right. I like it when a plan comes together. Oh, okay, can't spell. Turn right again, you have reached your destination. Job done. All right, I'm going to go back and tidy this up with the text because I spelt a couple of things wrong there. But in the meantime, Karen, have we got any questions?
Yes. So I just want to clarify first. Luke, was your question answered? We're kind of having a discussion on what you mean. So Luke is asking, why do we see hotspots on nodes in an animation? Are they not necessary?
They are not necessary, and that's the next step.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, and
for tidying up.
But I was also just wondering because I think when he wrote the question, we were only seeing the ghost hotspots in the viewer, so that was my interpretation.
Right, okay.
But until you linked them together. Okay, and let's see. So yeah, Luke, if that doesn't clarify, then we'll come back to it after Martin goes over this next section. So Rolf is asking something that we'll talk about, I think, later, and I think Andres. I think you might answer this also later. So Andre's asking, maybe we'll talk about this later. We'll get to it later. He says, if I have this sequence and I would be in a middle node, RT, and start the animation, is there a way to say the animation to start from this node, so the active one, and not the first one in the animation?
That's what it will do. That's what it will do.
Yeah.
The only caveat with this is, obviously, with the animation or with the clip starts at either your default view or whichever view you want. All right. So if, for argument's sake, the clip actually starts pointing at north and I'm south, and then decide to hit start animation for that particular sequence, right? It will then rotate to north first. When it gets to north, then it will start that sequence. So you'll get this rotate round, and then boop, and then it will start the sequence until it finishes, and then it goes. But basically, I'm only using the button to take you back to the first node only because its job is to show someone how to get to a location from the start. As I said before, if you're at, say, like a hospital, you go into the reception, I want to get to X-ray, how do I get there from here? So that's why that button always throws you back to the start. But you don't have to. You know, if I didn't have that button throwing you at the start, you could just hit the button and it would just carry on. It would scroll back round. So for argument's sake, in this scenario, if we're in the East Court and I've interacted with it and stopped the animation won't start again. I've stopped it. But if you then click to start this sequence again, this will then rotate round to where it starts. Then it will go to the next node, and then if you haven't put an end to it, it will then loop round again. So it will carry on from where it left off, but it has to rotate first to where the sequence starts, or sorry, the actual clip starts within the sequence. Yeah, so that's what. But yes, you can do it.
Yeah. And actually, I'm just going to quickly answer Rolf's question. It's not really related, but Rolf, we don't really have a solution for you. He's asking how do you, if we can use the plugins for something like Rapid Reaver, and so he doesn't have to upload a whole bunch of files to his server. So, sorry. So I think that's it. Yep. We can move on.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Karen. Right. Okay. As we said, tidying up. So I've just changed the text on here. And as somebody pointed out quite rightly, that within the output, what we've got is this hotspot. Now, there's a couple of things you may want to consider doing. All right. And that is, you know, as we've said, if I click the button and we start a sequence, one, the hotspot's showing. All right. Two, but if I interrupt it, I've now stopped it, and you can see that obviously the timeline would have stopped before we've got to the empty frame, and that's now showing, and it all looks horrible. All right. So question one is, would you want anybody to be able to interact with this until they've actually physically got to where they're going? All right. So that's question one. Two, do you want to see hotspots? All right. So let's just hit the button back here. Let's just click the button to come back to our start. As you can see, the timeline is, you know, I've broke it. There it is. So if I go back to long gallery, turn left, and now we're all good and everything, it's caught up with itself. But you have got this interaction. Now, obviously I'm using text boxes here. And it could be that I give it the text box an action that, you know, if auto rotate stops, wipe the text out. I could do that. So let's just have a look. I don't think it's practical to do it, but you could. We could, you know, let me think, because it's being done by a variable, so I could have a variable change to and all I've got to do is the text box is make it blank for that to hide. All right, so there's ways to doing that, but what I wanted to show you, let's get back to the skin before I lose complete track of what I'm doing. It was said about the hotspots being visible. Well, what we could say is that if the tour is under view, sorry, auto rotating, if that's true, so if the auto rotate is active, because an animation and auto rotate, I mean, we basically have packaged this all under the auto rotating action. So if you click on that and then look at the options under auto rotate, start animation is one of them. So it is classed very much as an auto rotate. So if we're saying that if the auto rotate is true, then the visibility of the point hotspot is false. Okay, so that's what we're doing to tidy that up. Okay, so that's what we can do. So as soon as I start this, all right, you'll see that the point hotspot disappears, and it will stay hidden until we finished. And then when it finishes, it's going to be back. Of course, the hotspot for this is at the back, so we didn't actually see it appear again. But yeah, you've got the idea what you can do. The other thing you can do using the same method is putting a container over the whole skin canvas. So we could have gone back to the skin. I could have added a container, made sure it's the top element. All right, made it 100% by 100%. I'm not going to do it, but you can. But you're going to get understand what I mean. If I deselect permeable, so it's an active. So whilst it's auto rotating, this is covering the screen, so no one can interact with it at all. No one can click and stop or do anything until you get to your destination. Then you can make it hide, because obviously, like with the hotspots, when auto rotate stops, you know, we can hide this, and then people can then interact with the panorama. So that stops people interacting mid-flow. All right. So these are the options, and these are the things you've got to think about when working with this. Okay. Right. What I want to show you now is another sequence that you might want to do for. Let's did I save that? No, let's not save that. I want to add another sequence, and this one is going to be for, I don't know, let's just call it YouTube. Now, why am I doing this? Right, well, it could be that with your virtual tour you want to make a promo video for it, and you want to make a promo video for YouTube or wherever that you want to post a video output, because obviously all of this is not using an animation output. So within the animation output we can make a promo video from this. So I don't want to include all the clips. All right, it's just too many clips. It needs to be short, sharp, punchy. Just want to show someone the highlights of your tour, right, or the building. Okay, so what I'm going to do, he says, is I'm going to go to, let's go back to the tour browser, select node 1. So this is, you know, possibly a node that I want to show. So clip 1 I know is quite lengthy, right? So what I'm going to do is clip 1 selected, I'm going to press and hold. When you see a little grey down arrow, that means a button has a dual function. So if I click and hold, you'll see that we get options. All right, make a flying clip, but in this case I'm going to duplicate the clip. And there it is. It's called clip 1, and it's basically the same as the clip for the default sequence. But we've just copied it. But what I'm going to call this is let's go YouTube, and let's just call this, I don't know, 01 for node 1. All right. Now this clip is far too long. All right, it's far too long for what I want. So let's just add that. There's the clip. So let's click on that. So I make sure that I'm in the particular clip that I want to edit. He says, yep. So here we are. We're in this particular clip. Far too long for what I want. So what I can do is what we did before, is Command A for the Mac, Control A for the PC, right button click, stretch keyframes, and I'm now going to make this 50%. So I'm going to make it shorter. All right. And then I'm going to trim the timeline. So we now got the same clip, but it's much faster. All right. It's not taking the time that it did before. In fact, you could actually argue that's still quite long. I could have even trimmed it down even further, but that's one clip. I could then say, right, well, I'm not really interested in the courtyard. It's got nothing in there. I'm interested in the long gallery. So I'm going to create a new clip, or not going to create a new clip. What I'm going to do is select one of the clips for the long gallery. So there it is. So this was from the default sequence, which was the long one that had lots of technical bits. So it was going around looking at things. And again, I'm going to duplicate that. So we can duplicate that clip, and then we're going to call this YouTube 02. All right. So that's my second clip. Oh, sorry, 02. There we go. So this is that. Make sure I've got it selected. So this is the clip that we're in. And again, I'm going to Command A, select all the keyframes, and I'm going to reduce this down, stretch the keyframe. I'm going to reduce it down to, how long is this clip? 31 seconds. So let's just say I'm going to reduce it down to, say, 30%. No, not 30%. Let's do 50 again. Right, let's do that. And then I can right button click, trim the timeline, and we've now speeded this up. Okay. So once we've done all of this, I'm going to end up with a separate sequence. So I've added all these clips. I mean, I could carry on and add a couple more. I mean, I could have done the long tower, the East Court to show the tower. So just promoing little bits. I can, mess around with these clips because these are duplicates. But once I've done this, what I can do is go back to the output. I can select a new output and add animation. All right. I'm definitely going to use transitions. So I'm going to use the cross dissolve. I'm going to set up the same sort of transition that I've got in the panorama. So we start 7 degrees. So I'm going to zoom in to 50. I'm going to be zooming out from 90 into 70. So that gives me my zoom in and then zoom in after. I'm not going to wait for transition. There's the speed. So that's basically setting up that output, and I can click go. It's going to ask me for all of the clips, but what I need to do is tell it what I want to animate. So here we go. So this is setting up the transition. I jumped the gun there actually. What I need to do now is select the YouTube sequence. I don't want to produce all of these clips. I just need the YouTube sequence. I set the resolution I want, how many frames I want. I mean, I'd personally use 60 frames per second. I'd use a bit of motion blur, leave it at TIFF, change the name, generate the video. You do need FFmpeg for this part. If you don't have it, go to our website, look up under FFmpeg, and you'll have links to download it. Choose what quality you want, and what it will do is Pano2VR will then generate the clips, and then or the image sequence. Once it's generated the image sequence, it's going to use FFmpeg to turn it into an MP4 video. I normally select this because you can generate thousands of images, and Pano2VR can delete them and tidy up after itself once it's done. So you can actually make a nice promo video. Now what I've done is exactly this earlier on, and here it is. If I double click and show it, this is what we built. So here it is. So this is this one. It spins around a lot quicker. It isn't as slow as the default sequence if someone was going to be walking around, and it's moving around. This one I did show this one actually, but you can see that it's far faster, and it's only going to contain a few clips, and this is going to be great for putting up onto YouTube or wherever you want to put it. But that is, it's just a nice little marketing toy, is it? Or not toy, but a marketing thing that you can create to help publicize. Anyway, that was just covering there quickly, duplicating clips, and obviously using right button click to adjust and stretch the keyframes. Not only can you stretch them, but you can shrink them. There are other settings within the timelines that we can do, change what types of clips they are, all of that. There's loads more. I would definitely say check out the documentation for animation on our website. There's lots you can do with this, but hopefully this was just a quick, how do I make an A to B type sequence, and using the animation editor to give my tours just that little bit of an extra kick. I've not seen virtual tours with individual sequences, so an auto tour that then allows the user to, how do I get from point A to point B? Pano2VR gives you this feature. Anyway, I'm going to open it one more last time over to Karen. And do we have any questions, Karen?
Hi. No, we don't have any questions.
All
so
right.
I guess it's all clear.
Excuse me. Awesome. Well, I hope everybody got something out of this. From my point of view, this is the subject covered. It touches on variable tracks. It touches on everything that we've covered before in the past, but this is just pulling it all together to make different sequences from your individual clips. But as I say, I think I've just about covered everything from me, Karen. Is there anything you need to add?
No, I think I think you covered everything. It was a nice,
cool.
nice thorough webinar in there. I mean, there's a lot in there. So I think the fun thing is realizing that you can use Pano2VR as a, it's like the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can kind of do a little bit of everything. You don't have to leave it. And you can have everything set into one in one tool. So there is another question. It was not a question, but it's just Ralph saying thank you for the great webinar. Thanks for joining us, Ralph. Thanks a lot for
Absolutely.
For asking your questions, and great. Well, I think that's it from me.
I think what we're just for the next webinar, I think what we're going to be saying is we're going to sort of put it on hold for a bit because, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, Karen, can you remember how many webinars we've done now?
Oh, it's something like, I think I counted 42, I think we did.
Right, okay, so this was, makes 43, I suppose, but wow, that's a lot of webinars since last March, and yeah, I think we need a break. So with that said, I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to sort of we're going to post again in the in the forum and Facebook pages when the next one will be, but certainly going to have at least a little break to recover.
We'll let you know when
absolutely
we come up with our next webinar. It shouldn't be long, right?
No, and also, as we always say, if you've got a suggestion, if you've been on our webinars or you've gone through our webinar page and you've not seen something that you'd like to see, please email into support. So at support@ggnome.com and give us your suggestions. We're here for you.
Yeah, I was just going to type this into the chat. So there we go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Right. Okay. Well, I'm happy. I hope everybody else, as I say, has got something out of this. As always, thank you for joining us today. It makes it worthwhile. And from me, all I can say is goodbye and over to Karen.
Yeah. Goodbye. Have a good evening, day, morning, wherever you're at, and we'll see you soon enough, I'm sure.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Bye.
Bye.